There is a particular kind of tired that does not come from work, a fog that does not feel like sadness, just distance. You are still functioning. You are still showing up. You are still managing. But something in you feels muted. Your mornings are heavier than they should be. Your discipline is softer than you want it to be. Your inner voice is quieter than it used to be. And the strange part is this: you have not connected it to alcohol. Because alcohol is not framed as a problem. It is framed as a vibe, a ritual, a reward, a social passport. A glass of wine after a hard day is not addiction. A beer with friends is not a warning sign. 2 drinks to unwind is not something worth examining. Or so the story goes. But the owl sees what most people miss. Alcohol does not always destroy your life loudly. Sometimes it disconnects you quietly. And the quiet disconnection is the most dangerous kind because it does not announce itself. It simply arrives one day as the gap between who you are and who you know you could be. In this video, the owl is going to show you how that gap is created. Not to judge, not to shame, not to tell you what to choose, but to show you what is actually happening in your biology, your psychology, and your identity when alcohol is regularly present in your life. Because you cannot address what you cannot see clearly. And clarity is exactly what the fog takes first. Let us start with what alcohol actually is at the biological level. Because most people think of alcohol as something that adds to experience. It adds relaxation, it adds confidence, it adds ease. But biologically, alcohol is a depressant. Its primary mechanism is the enhancement of GABA, the brain's main inhibitory neurotransmitter. GABA's job is to slow neural activity, to reduce the signal, to quiet the noise. When alcohol arrives in the system, it amplifies GABA's effect significantly. The result is what feels like relaxation. The mental noise drops. The social anxiety reduces. The tension you have been carrying loosens. And the brain notes this. This worked. This brought relief. Do this again. But here is the cost that comes later that almost nobody connects to the drinking. GABA is part of a system that requires balance. When you regularly suppress the excitatory system with an external substance, the brain compensates. It reduces its natural GABA sensitivity. It increases the excitatory signals to counterbalance the suppression. And when the alcohol leaves the system, the excitatory signals that were being suppressed are now running without their counterbalance. The result is a rebound effect. Anxiety increases. Stress reactivity rises. Sleep is disrupted. The nervous system is running hotter than it was before you drank. This is the hangover anxiety that many drinkers know well, but almost nobody explains correctly. The day after anxiety is not weakness. The day after restlessness is not a character flaw. It is your brain's excitatory system running unbalanced because the suppression that was artificially applied has now been removed. And the more regularly alcohol is used to quiet the system, the more the system recalibrates upward to compensate, which means over time you need more alcohol to achieve the same quieting effect, while experiencing more anxiety on the days and mornings without it. The relief creates the very condition it was recruited to solve. There is one more biological mechanism worth understanding here. Because alcohol does not only work through GABA, alcohol also stimulates the brain's endogenous opioid system. The internal opioid receptors that are responsible for the warmth of connection, the feeling of being held and safe, the deep satisfaction that comes from belonging. Alcohol mimics and amplifies that system, which is why for many people the pull of alcohol is not only about quieting the mind. It is about feeling, briefly, the way they wish they felt all the time. Connected, warm, at ease with themselves and the people around them. The brain registers that experience, and it connects it to the alcohol. The opioid signal triggers dopamine in the reward pathway. The reward pathway files it as, do this again. And over time, the natural capacity to feel that connection without the substance quietly diminishes. Not because the person changed, because the brain has an external source now, and it stops working as hard to generate it internally. This is why alcohol dependency can feel different from other habits. It is not just about relief from pain. It is about the substitution of a feeling that was always supposed to come from life itself. There is a second biological layer that touches everything, but is almost never discussed in the context of regular drinking. Sleep. Alcohol helps most people fall asleep. That part is true, but what it does to the sleep itself is a different story. Like THC, which the owl covered in the last video, alcohol suppresses REM sleep, the stage of sleep where memory consolidates, where emotional processing happens, where the brain conducts its essential maintenance. Regular drinkers often sleep long hours and wake feeling unrestored, not because they did not sleep enough, because the sleep they got was not the sleep the brain needed. And the cumulative effect of chronically disrupted REM is something that builds so gradually most people accept it as their normal. Lower baseline energy, slower mental processing, emotional reactions that arrive faster and stronger than they should, a fog over the morning that takes longer to lift each day. This is not aging. This is not stress. This is a brain that has not been completing its nightly repair for months or years. And here is a number that most people never hear. Research on alcohol recovery shows that sleep takes an average of 18 months to fully normalize after stopping regular drinking. Not 2 weeks, not 30 days, 18 months. For someone who has been a regular drinker for years, that means the fogged mornings, the unrestored nights, the emotional reactivity that comes with tired processing are not personal failings. They are a nervous system that needs significantly more time than most people give it to complete the repair it has been unable to finish. This is not discouraging. It is clarifying. It means the people who stop after 30 days and say, "I still do not feel right," are not failing. They are exactly where the science says they should be. And the ones who hold the direction long enough to reach that 18-month horizon discover something most people never get to experience. What ordinary mornings feel like when the brain has finished healing. Now, here is the layer that makes alcohol uniquely powerful compared to almost any other substance: culture. No other drug on earth has been as successfully marketed as a requirement for full human participation. Consider what alcohol is attached to in the modern world: celebration, grief, romance, achievement, relaxation, friendship, professional networking, sports, holidays, creativity, even wellness, in the form of wine culture. The message is constant, and it is everywhere. If you are happy, drink. If you are stressed, drink. If you are bored, drink. If you are social, drink. If you are alone, drink. And the inverse message, equally powerful: if you do not drink, explain yourself. Most people do not drink primarily because they love alcohol. They drink because not drinking requires justification, because opting out has a social cost that opting in does not. This is not just marketing. This is programming. And the programming is so complete, so normalized, so woven into the fabric of adult life, that most people never stop to evaluate their relationship with alcohol. They simply participate. And what you never evaluate, you never truly choose. Here is the concept that changes everything for most people in this space: the gray area drinker. Most conversations about alcohol exist in two categories: the alcoholic and everyone else. The alcoholic has lost control. Everyone else is fine, but that binary misses the vast middle territory where most people actually live. The gray area drinker is not an alcoholic. They are still functioning. They are not drinking in the morning. They are not losing jobs or relationships to alcohol. But alcohol is quietly organizing their life in ways they have not fully examined. It is their primary off switch, the main method of transitioning from work to rest, the default social lubricant, the reliable way to quiet the inner noise, the reward system at the end of a hard day or week. And here is the defining characteristic of the gray area: they keep negotiating. Just weekends, just socially, just tonight, just one. If you are regularly negotiating the terms of your drinking, the negotiation itself is the data. People who are genuinely casual about alcohol do not negotiate. They simply take it or leave it. The negotiation reveals that something is being managed, and anything you need to manage is managing you. Now let us look at what this means at the level of daily life, because alcohol does not only affect the nights you drink, it affects the days that follow, and through the days, it shapes who you are becoming. Here is what the owl calls the invisible influence. There is a way alcohol shapes your decisions long before you ever pick up a glass, because patterns become identity, and identity drives behavior automatically without requiring conscious choice. Consider the micro-decisions, the morning where you feel slightly off, and choose the easier path rather than the harder one. The workout that does not happen because the energy is not quite there. The difficult conversation that gets postponed because the clarity to have it is not accessible. The creative work that stays undone because the focus needed to begin does not arrive. The discipline that was going to start Monday, that keeps starting Monday. None of these feel dramatic. None of these feel like alcohol. They feel like ordinary days, but they are not ordinary days. They are the cumulative result of a nervous system that is not operating at its natural baseline. A drink on Saturday affects Monday, not as a hangover, as a quieter, foggier, more reactive version of the self that makes slightly smaller choices more consistently than the clearer version would. And slightly smaller choices, made consistently over months and years, produce a significantly different life. Here is the layer that most alcohol content avoids entirely. What the owl calls the inner volume. Call it higher self. Call it intuition. Call it conscience. Call it alignment. Whatever your language for it, most people know the feeling of being connected to it. Clear mind, clean energy, calm confidence. The ability to hear what you actually want beneath the noise of what is immediate and comfortable. Alcohol does not just relax you. It reduces your ability to hear yourself, because the higher self speaks quietly, through subtle discomfort that signals something is wrong. Through intuition that knows before the mind has caught up, through the feeling that says, this is not who I am, through the quiet desire to build something better. These signals are not loud. They require a certain quality of internal stillness to receive, and alcohol, used regularly, blurs those signals, not destructively, not dramatically, quietly. You begin making decisions from the outside in, what others expect, what feels easy, what is socially approved, what the fog allows, instead of from the inside out, what you value, what you are building, who you are becoming. The fog does not just cloud the morning, it clouds the direction. Now here is something the owl wants to be clear about. This video is not about alcohol is evil. Alcohol is not evil. It is a substance, and like any powerful substance, its relationship with your life depends entirely on how that relationship is structured. The question is never, am I an alcoholic? That question sends most people to a binary where they compare themselves to the most extreme cases and conclude they are fine. The question is, does alcohol make me more of who I want to be? Or less? Does it expand my capacity? Or quietly contract it? Does it connect me to the life I am building? Or does it offer a comfortable exit from it? And perhaps most honestly, can I take it or leave it? Or do I consistently choose to take it? These questions are not judgments, they are mirrors, and what they reflect is worth looking at directly. Before the owl goes further, there is something important that must be said clearly. For most people who drink regularly, reducing or stopping alcohol can be done without medical intervention. But for people who have been drinking heavily and daily for an extended period of time, alcohol withdrawal can be medically serious. In severe cases, it can involve seizures, a state called delirium tremens, and without proper medical support in those cases, it can be life-threatening. This is not said to create fear. It is said because the owl believes you deserve the full picture. If you are someone who drinks large amounts every day and has done so for a sustained period, please speak with a healthcare professional before making any sudden changes. The information in this video is for the vast majority of drinkers who are in the gray area, not for people whose dependency has reached the level where the body has become physically reliant. If you are uncertain which category you are in, that conversation with a doctor costs nothing and could matter enormously. There is a simple experiment the owl offers, not a dramatic declaration, not a permanent commitment, not a label. 7 days of clarity. No alcohol. Not as punishment, as data. During those 7 days, observe. How is your sleep? How are your mornings? How is your focus? How is your discipline? How is your mood stability? How is your inner voice? What cravings arrive in alcohol's absence? What emotions surface that were being softened? Because the purpose of the experiment is not to prove you have a problem. It is to show you who you are without the fog. And who you are without the fog is the most honest information you can have about the role alcohol is playing in your life. If 7 days feels difficult, if the mind immediately generates reasons why now is not the right time, if the social calendar presents itself as an obstacle, that response is data, valuable data, and it belongs to you. If the 7 days confirms what you already suspected, if the data says something worth listening to, then the owl offers you a deeper map. The 3-3-3 method applied to alcohol. 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. Each threshold different. Each one revealing something the previous one could not. The first 3 days, the shock threshold. Something will feel missing. Not just the drink, the role it played, the transition ritual, the off switch, the familiar shape of the evening. Many people in these first days describe a feeling that is not quite craving and not quite grief, but something between the two. A gap where the pattern used to be. This is completely normal. It is not evidence that you need alcohol. It is evidence that alcohol had a role in your life that is now becoming visible precisely because it is absent. Your only task in the first 3 days is to stay on the right side of the line. Not to feel good. Not to have the perfect sober evening. Just stay clean. Sleep may be disrupted. The nervous system is recalibrating. The GABA system is finding its natural balance without the external suppression. This is temporary, and temporary is survivable. The first 3 weeks, the rewiring threshold. Something shifts in the first 2 to 4 weeks. The brain fog begins to lift. Not completely. In waves. There are mornings where the mind arrives faster than it used to, where the clarity that took 3 hours to find is accessible in 30 minutes. Mood begins to stabilize. The emotional reactivity that was amplified by the GABA rebound starts to settle. Energy levels fluctuate. Some days surprisingly good, some days harder than expected. This is the nervous system rebuilding its natural calibration. And crucially, this is also the window where most attempts at reduction end. Not because the craving is strongest, because life begins to feel manageable. And manageable is when the pattern whispers, "You have proven you can stop. Just one will not put you back." This is not recovery speaking. This is the old pattern attempting to reinstall itself at the exact moment the new one has not yet solidified. Replace. Do not negotiate. The first 3 months, the identity threshold. By 30 days, most people who hold the line begin to notice something they did not expect. Other people notice first. Something is different about you. Your energy, your face, your presence, the way you show up to conversations. The physical changes are real. Sleep is deeper. Skin is clearer. The body is processing food without the constant biochemical interference of alcohol. By 60 days, the confidence that comes not from feeling good, but from keeping a promise to yourself begins to arrive. Every day you held the line is a data point, and data points accumulate into belief. By 90 days, something fundamental has shifted. The identity that needed alcohol as a default is no longer fully who you are. You have accumulated enough evidence that the fog was not your normal. Clarity was. And here is what the research confirms that the owl wants to leave you with. The full healing is a longer horizon. Sleep, as we discussed, takes up to 18 months to fully normalize. The dopamine system that was organized around alcohol continues recalibrating well beyond the 90-day mark. The owl does not say this to discourage you. The owl says it so that at 30 days, at 60 days, when things are better but not yet complete, you do not mistake progress for arrival. You are not done. You are on the path. And the path, held consistently, is where the life you were always capable of begins to become visible. Here is the shift that changes everything for the people who choose to address this. It is not the decision to quit drinking. It is the decision to become someone who protects their clarity. When clarity becomes the identity, the negotiation stops. The social justification becomes unnecessary. The question of whether to drink or not becomes less interesting than the question of who you are becoming. Because alcohol cannot compete with clarity once you have experienced what clarity actually feels like. Not the absence of alcohol, the presence of yourself. Fully. Unfogged, unmedicated, awake. The version of you that makes better micro-decisions, that hears the signals, that moves in a direction, that wakes up with full access to everything you are. That version is not far away. It is waiting on the other side of the fog. You are not a drinker who is trying to stop. You are someone who is deciding what kind of clarity you want to live from. And that decision does not require a crisis. It does not require rock bottom. It does not require permission from anyone who benefits from you staying foggy. If this video gave you something worth sitting with, like and share it with someone who would appreciate it. Subscribe to the Owl's Burrow so the next descent is ready when you are. The owl will see you there.